Quitting in folks, 30 seconds to showtime. Grab your seat, leave your drinks to the bar. Hold your breath, put your hands together. We present Stanford Bay's finest star. Who has danced with the Mayor of Guinea? Who has dined with the Queen of Vermont? We trace the voyages of Sinbad. Corresponded with the men who can't love us to be. C'est pas la même chose que la vache qui rit. La vache est fort, mon ami.
And hello, everybody. Welcome once again to our weekly show, which is called The G Spot, because I am Geoff with the G. How are you guys doing today? I've got a really great guest today, which is the amazing and wonderful sideshow legend, Chris Christ. How are you doing, Chris? Are you doing okay today?
I'm doing great. And thank you for having me on. I figured after the last time you would never even call me.
Oh, if we could do this every week, I'm sure. I know I would love it. And I know a lot of other people would too.
You know, we had talked before we got online.
Yeah.
That it's no good for me to jump around with different stories because I'll be retelling the same stories. So I thought, and I suggested to you, I didn't get you to agree, but we'll do a holiday special one around Christmas.
Oh, definitely. I can't wait for that.
I got some neat stories for that. So
that's very, very cool. All right. So who we got on the chat so far, just so that way you're aware, we've got Hot Todd Lincoln, who's really great. Burps the Clown is also great. And Threadway T, so self-deprecating. That is very true. But no, I love talking with Chris here, and we want to make sure that everybody gets to hear these all in great stories that for an industry that pretty much doesn't exist, at least in the way it used to anymore.
No, I mean, it doesn't exist the way it used to. Now it's all nightclub style stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying things change.
Right, but today we're
the
talking about
guys don't have to carry 40,000 pounds of equipment with them either.
No, we just have to carry the show sometimes, which is very. No, I'm kidding. No, it's true. We don't have to carry $40,000 pounds of equipment. No, that's very true. But it's still a fascinating thing. But today we want to talk about something specific, just so that way we can talk about interesting stuff. And so today we wanted to talk about.
I think that we're gonna make each one of these little episodes specific, so
right.
We don't tell the same story.
Correct. And so today we want to talk about giants. You want to talk about giants today?
Yeah, we'll talk about giants today.
Okay, so I'm just going to let the viewers know what the deal is, and then we're going to go from there. So in just a second, I'm going to switch over so that way it's just Chris on screen, so he can tell these great stories. And then probably about when he's got all his main stories out, we're going to do a Q&A afterwards. So about half an hour, he's going to talk some specific stories he wants to tell, and then we're going to do a Q&A afterwards. Make sure you have your questions saved up in the chat. I'll try to keep track of stuff on the side as well. Be respectful as always. We really appreciate that. Make sure you like the Instagram feeds underneath both of our pictures. Myself, Geoff with the G, and then we got the World of Wonder show, which Chris was a part of for such a long time. We will make sure that you like and follow their stuff.
It's now Tommy Breen's company.
It is, and so, but it's one of those things because you have such ties to it. And Tom, I still got to give love to Tommy too. So making sure that
Tommy,
people don't forget.
You know, I'll tell you a very quick story about Tommy. When Tommy first came, I saw something special in this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And after a day or two, he acted like somebody that was unhappy and was ready to leave. So I said, get in the pickup truck. I got to go to the hardware store, or whatever excuse I made up. And I said, if there's any problems here, come to me. We'll work them out, da-da-da. And he said, no. He said, I'm really happy here. He said, I like this. I'm very happy. He said, but I'm just extremely shy. He was so shy that at the sideshow convention he used to have in Scranton, he wouldn't even go up and say hello to Hall.
Oh, wow.
Who is the most gregarious, easy to meet guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And And so he worked on the Valley with me, swallowing swords. I told Hall after about a day working with him, I said, I'm going to make a talker out of this guy. He said, you're nuts. You're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He won't even talk to the other help. He said, what are you going to make a sword swallow out of him or a talker out of him? In 3 weeks working with me, I turned it over to him, and usually when you turn it over to somebody when they're learning, it's a disaster. But that's what you expect. He was spot on, like he'd been doing it for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only person that I ever gave the privilege to change the price when they thought it was proper. He had great timing from the minute it started. And he's like I was, like Hall was. This was not a vocation for him. It was an avocation. It was a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get older, you find great pride in teaching younger people. And I realized when I was a kid, 19, 18 years old, what the old timers taught me, and you get a certain amount of joy out of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one hell of a sideshow guy. He can do it all. He's very smart. He's very bright, and I'm very proud to have a little bit to do with his training, so to speak.
No, he is actually a really great guy. I've only met him once. I met him the first year I went to the Hootenanny,
Well,
very briefly.
that's enough. Once
Yeah,
is
that's
enough.
fine. No problem. Let's get started with talking about Giants. I'm going to turn it over strictly to let's talk some stories about some Giants and stuff like that. So here we go.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, you're ready to get? We can start whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, number one, there's two types of giants. The glandular type giants, which would be Andre the Giant, Johan Peterson, and then there's a glandular style with big heads, big hands, Eddie Carmel, and then we have what we call the beanpole giants. They're like a skinny basketball player, like Buck Nolan and Tyrone Reeder and Bob Collins, and I'll tell a story about him. But they were beanpole guys. They were tall, but they didn't have the girth that a overactive thyroid condition causes regular giants.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell a funny story about Buck Nolan. Buck started on the Clyde Beatty Cole Brothers Circus as a working man on the big top. And whoever had the sideshow then, and it might have been Stu Miller, saw him on the big top and thinking, what is this guy doing on the big top? So he stole him from the big top, made a giant out of him. And Buck, God bless him because he's gone, but Buck was a kleptomaniac. And they had lost some chairs or something. So along the way, one morning, Buck appropriated like 100 chairs or something and went to the office and asked Edna Yantes, who was the office lady, he wanted $1 a piece for the chairs. And said, Buck, I can't just give you money without you having an invoice. You have to have a receipt. You have to have an invoice so I can pay you. So he went over and took a piece of paper, wrote down the Giant Chair Company, 100 chairs, $1 each, $100 total. Bob Collins, we're playing Berea, Ohio, and I guess we closed on Sunday. On Saturday, this woman comes out and said, I want to get my son a job. And we said, well, we got plenty of help and so on. And she said, but you don't understand. he's a big boy. And I said, yeah. I said, he's 7'4". So I said, well, have him out here Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. And she said it, and I'll bring his suitcases. Evidently, she wanted to get rid of him. So he was a beanpole giant, but he was big. And he was young, so he would help with, the labor of putting that thing up and down. And this is just a little side story. We were playing around there one day, and he said, let me see one of those swords. And I know he had never practiced this or knew anything about it. He just tipped his head back and dropped it down. I never saw anybody do that before.
Wow.
So he stayed the whole summer. Ward had a big Roman outfit, and we put him on the ballet with a big sign that said, if you think I'm big, come inside and see my father, the Texas Giant. It was like a money funnel.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
There was a TV program on the Venice Beach Freak Show.
Yes.
And they came down here and did an episode. And why
Yes.
they featured their people every week? Why didn't they feature our people just to make it different? But there was a guy named George, the black guy, who was a giant.
Yes.
And we're sitting on my back porch having a cup of coffee while they're putzing around doing whatever. And we get talking, and George talks about playing basketball in college. And for like 10 years, he was on the Harlem Globetrotters. And I asked him enough questions. I knew he was on the square, telling the stories about going here and going there and being with the Globetrotters.
Yeah.
And in fact, I asked him, I said, who was the comedian? And he said, you mean the clown? I didn't want to say the word clown, so I said comedian. He said, I think it was Meadowlark Lemon, or one of the very famous ones. Yes. He spent like 10 years. He said he wasn't fast enough up and down the court to make it in the big time pro leagues, and he made a good living doing that. And he ended up working for the sheriff's department in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So those are just some of the, not the regular stories that you hear. The best combination of anything I ever had was a giant girl, a midget woman who was like Pete Moore, and Bruce Snowden, the fat man. I mean, you talk about something easy to talk about. It was everything in all the pictures, but the one thing I want to tell you about is the biggest, the smallest, and the tallest.
Okay.
And Francis Cook was a drag queen, but he was like 6'11", but gaffed up with the heels and stuff. So I'm just mentioning some of the more obscure ones.
Oh, no, this is all very fascinating. The chat has got some people just going like, wow, and talking about George and stuff like that. So people are into it. So we love hearing these stories.
Dave Ballard, the Texas Giant out in New York, he was with us for several years. And Dave there's one thing that goes with the genealogical makeup of a giant. They're all cheap. I mean, if you gave him a penny, Lincoln would cry. If you gave him a nickel, the buffalo would defecate. So Dick Johnson's doing the magic pitch, and we're on the last show of the night. There's no way in the world that Dick would make a pitch, with that few people in there and closing up for the night. Mm-hmm. But Dave made the mistake of, Dave was taking the bus downtown, because then we had what we called hotel actors back then. And Dick hears him tell me, said, "Tell that Johnson not to pitch this time. I got to make the bus." So I looked at Dick and I thought to myself, "Oh, I can see this coming." So Dick made the world's longest magic pitch to 4 people. And I just made some notes of funny little instances. Well, we can talk about Eddie Carmel. He was. There's more stories about Eddie than we have time for. Eddie was a giant in the Jewish giant in New York City at the Garden, and Eddie's legs were bad, and Nate Eagle squared it every day. The security would let a cab come down in the basement, which they never allowed any vehicles down there, except for the little totes to pull the cats around. And he would get up on the stage, and every day they would fight. They were both of Jewish descent, and they would just go at it, hammer and tong, scream, holler every single day. And because I'm a 19-year-old kid, I'm doing good throwing the knives and pitching telescopes. But of course, when you're paying your dues, you have to go out and do all the schlep work. But that's part of paying your dues. But I was put in charge of the stock room, and I kept a ledger of everything. I knew how much was being sold and so on. So now I notice that on the days once Nate's health wasn't good, once in a while when Nate wouldn't show up, the gross would go down. And every day Eddie brought a big bag of fruit. And to back up the story, there were 10 stages. I was supposed to get $2 a week per stage for putting out the props, hooking up the sound, and so on and so forth. Well, poor Esteline Pike, the sweet sort of lady, didn't sell enough pictures to give me the $2. The other, I think, 5 or 6 acts were Halls, and he wasn't going to give me anything. And I can't think of her name now. The little Puerto Rican contortionist girl, she would make me a little sequin bow tie or something every week. So basically, I got 0 out of doing all the schlepping. But again, you're paying your dues, and that's fine. But then one day, I'm cleaning up, straightening up afterwards. Eddie takes 2 pop bottles, old-time Coke bottles, after the menagerie guys had swept up the floor, and broke them on the floor and said, "Now, punk, clean this up." And so I grabbed his cane, and Nate, I could see him out of the corner of my eye. He's watching me, and I'm just wailing the living hell out of him. I'm a Louisville slugger, and just So I said, "Now I'm going to get you, you bastard." So now I figured out the gross is going down on the days that Nate's not there, but the fruit bag's always there. So the ring in stock has to be in the fruit bag. So I told Eddie, I said, it's $20 a week now to do the stage. He said, "Fuck you." Excuse me, can I use bad language?
Oh, yeah, you can use whatever fucking language you want to use.
He said, "Fuck you, I ain't giving you nothing." I said, "That's fine. Don't give me anything because you're not paying me. This is what they call extortion. Because I know you got the rings in the bottom of that bag, and I'm going to slide on that sidewall with a stick with a knife on it right in the middle of Nate's pitch and cut that bag and let those rings go all over the place." He paid me like a slot machine. I guess, corrupting young people. But he deserved it. He had beautiful custom-made shirts, Western shirts. He had 2 of them. And he would change his shirts. He never washed them, but he would change them. So now we get to the end of the story with Nate, and he used to do the thing where Eddie would hold up his foot, and his foot is as long as my forearm from my elbow to my fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
And Eddie held up his foot, and he had a big black ring around his ankle because he never washed. And Nate was an immaculate dresser. And Nate just looked at him, set the microphone down, and said, "Eddie, you're done." Everything else with them was screaming.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard that, because I was next to him, when I heard that, I said, "Uh-oh, he's gone." You know, because Nate changed his whole attitude. Just set it down the mic, and you know. So Nate comes to me and said, "Now listen, don't let him take the 2 blow-ups. Don't let him take the big cowboy hat because that's mine." I said, "Okay." Mm-hmm. And he said, "And tomorrow I want you to put the cowboy hat and the 2 blow-ups up." I said, "We don't have a giant." He said, "Just put out the cowboy hat and he was a nice guy and a hell of a showman, and the 2 blow-ups." So I'm going to see what he's going to do the next day. And they had a program on television called The Birthday Party.
Okay.
And a New York City kiddie TV program. So Nate starts and says, "Well, you notice that Eddie, the big giant, isn't here today. But kids, today is Eddie's birthday. And he's at WXYZ on the birthday program." He did that for the last 3 weeks of the thing every day. And he'd tell him about the hat and the ring and so on. And he was selling more rings without Eddie than he was with Eddie. Probably because he's putting more effort into it because you know, and after the first one, it was a big Saturday afternoon matinee, he looked at me and said, "See, son, you don't need that big son of a bitch anyway." So I guess that's, you know, I just tried to pick out some stories of not the normal ones everybody would have heard.
No, they're amazing. I can tell you right now, I don't care. I'll be honest. I know everybody else is on the chat. They're enjoying. People are watching it. Me, I love all the old stories. I love hearing about all these people and things like that because it's really, really fascinating.
Well, it was a different time.
Well, yeah.
You know, it's like we were talking about before. Everybody now is nightclub performers, and that's where where the venue has moved to, and that's great. Nothing wrong with that at all. You know, we used to have to carry a whole semi full of equipment that took 8 or 10 hours to put up and four hours to take down every week.
Yeah.
Had 144 stakes.
Wow.
And we didn't have automatic drivers back then. It was all hand driven. I remember with that TV show, Venice Beach. I can't think of the guy's name now.
His name is Dennis. I deep dove into that sort of stuff. Yeah, Dennis. Is it Dennis? Maybe. No, I'm thinking of something else. But yeah, no, I know exactly. Yeah, it was called Freak Show. So
anyway, they came up with the right idea because they saw it on TV in a movie or something. Said, "Can you guys team drive?" I said, "Yeah." So, "Well, we want you to drive a couple of stakes with him." And I said, "No, we're not." I said, "Do you know how dangerous that is if you don't have a trained set of guys to go four-handed?" So I got Tommy and 2 other guys that knew what they were doing. I said, "We'll do some three-handed, but we're not doing the four-handed."
It was
because he never drove a stake in his life, so we, you know.
Yeah. So it was Todd Ray. It was the guy who ran
Todd Ray. And nothing against him personally. It's just that it was not safe to have somebody not trained to just go do it, you know?
Oh, no, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Threadway. Yes, yeah, and he made a point. He goes, lifting the gorilla is no fun.
Who said lifting the gorilla was no fun?
Threadway T. I'm not sure who that is offhand. I'll be honest, because the thing about the chat is it can be the people have stuff like, but
Sure.
it's somebody who apparently knows you and stuff like that. So
The loading the gorilla was no fun.
yeah, I think it's yeah. So
It wasn't hugely heavy, but it was bulky as hell and hard to handle.
that's fair. Yeah.
All right, we got some questions.
Let's switch over. Yes. So anybody wants to bring in a chat and bring questions. Otherwise, me and Chris are just gonna talk about random shit. Otherwise, what? No, give 1 second. I forgot to turn that off. There we go. Hey, Rachel. Rachel is the person who's Threadway T. So apparently you know Rachel. So
Rachel, is it Rachel that I taught to be a front talker?
1 second. Give it a chance. Could be. Let's give it a moment for her
She's very
to
good
respond.
too.
I bet, and maybe we'll talk afterwards, Rachel, about bringing you on the show sometime to talk about stuff. Because that's what I like doing. So if you guys have any questions with the wonderful and amazing Chris Christ.
Or anything. It doesn't have to be giants. Just any questions.
Well, now we're at the stage where we can talk about whatever, as long as you're cool and respectful. I'm gonna ask questions that I know Chris is gonna be cool with because we had some issues last time. Yes. By the way, Chris, Rachel is the person you did teach to be a talker. So.
And she was very good.
So cool, Rachel. Let's talk afterwards because maybe because not very often we see a lot of front talkers that are female.
Tell her even though she's got kids now and she's remarried, I still love her.
Well, she can hear you talk. So
okay.
It's like the chat.
Love you, Rachie.
Yeah. So no, the chat can hear you. They're talking. They basically stuff like that. So yeah,
I don't do a lot of this, so you know.
Also fine. No worries. We're all good. Looking through the chat, people talk because there are people chatting a little bit on the side. Hot Todd Lincoln talked about head factors. He has a couple of giant rings himself. I have one. I have one from the Texas Giant, Jack Earl.
Yeah, that's very collectible.
I really like that too.
I've got a couple of Johann Peterson ones, a couple of the translucent plastic ones, and I've got an old Johann Peterson metal one before he got the plastic one, and then I probably got half a dozen of the just generic type.
I think that's gonna be my next poll. Is probably get a Johann Peterson because my last name is Peterson. I don't think we're related, but it's nice to think so.
Well, wait a minute. Stand up. Let me see.
I'm 6'2", so I'm wearing shorts. I look classy here, but not below. I'm 6'2". I'm born with blonde hair. It's darkened over ages. I'm sure I'm not.
Let me very quickly tell one more Johann story.
Please do so.
Well, because so many Johann stories have been told. We had, I think, 12 or 14 stages in 1973 at the Armory in Washington, D.C. And it was because another guy built the Cap Center, and the Ringling Show couldn't get along with the guy that built the Cap Center, so they wanted to have something that the Cap Center didn't have, so they put a menagerie in there with the sideshow.
Mm-hmm.
And we split it up like 4 stages apiece. We would go around, do 4, and everybody be doing 4s. And Milt Robbins, who gave Ward his first job in the business, was kind of like Ward had a bad childhood. He was kind of like Ward's surrogate dad, and so he had the one section with Johan.
Mhm.
So as the people, they blew the whistle as the people were leaving, the guy came up, went to go up the stairs, and Milt gave him the normal thing, I'm sorry, because of insurance, we're not allowed, da, 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 da. And he said, well, you don't understand. He said, I'm the ambassador from Iceland, and Johan and I were kids together. They hadn't seen each other in like 50 years. And we got a folding chair for him to sit up there. He never went to see the circus. They had tears running down their face. It was fabulous.
That's no, that's really cool. That's really interesting. There we go. Back
But they
there.
were little kids in Iceland.
Yeah, my family's from Sweden, and so that's where it comes from. My great grandparents were based out of that way, so it's one of those it's unlikely. Peterson's a very common name in the north, so
Yeah.
but it's like I like to think so. So that's my next thing, and thank you Threadway. I will check out Showman's Museum to pick up a Johan Peterson ring because. Like the Jack Girl, because I live in.
If you want me, I got so much crap piled around. If I come on with one, I'll send it to you.
We'll talk later. We'll talk later
Okay.
about that. I don't expect anything. It's more that fact is.
No, but look, I'm not going to live forever. I'm not I'm too much of a collector. I live in a house that's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a kitchen, and a big living room. And I'm getting ready to downsize so I can sell it because it's too much for me to keep up with.
I understand.
I need something with 2 small bedrooms, 1 hobby room, 1 bedroom, an open concept with the kitchen and the living room together. And 1 bathroom. That's all I need,
No, we'll talk. We'll talk off air about stuff, and like it's one of those. Also, the other things I have to make my pilgrimage there anyways at some point once the world gets at least kind of normal, and then we can talk about it then. We do have some questions in the chat.
Good.
So Minch the Winch, who I believe is Sarah Minch, who great for you tuning in. Said, what were those giant rings pitch cards being sold for at that time? We were talking about
normal pitch cards, CeeLo or the quarter man or whatever. They were a dime. The rings were always a quarter because there was an old rule. If it costs a nickel, you had to sell it for a quarter.
Oh, that might,
Now we're talking about in the 70s or something.
Yeah. That's so that breaks down to be roughly about $10-ish today, just for people to wear.
Yeah.
So
because one day in Atlanta was the biggest fair on the $1 million midway route then. And we would have a $3,400 day at 50 cents.
Yeah.
And we thought we killed the cow and had a barbecue. I mean, that was the 2 biggest days of the season. And one day, I don't tell younger people these stories because they think I'm crazy. But Johnson sold. He had everybody on the show. He had plenty of stock meat. Plenty more. He got over $200 that day. Well, at a quarter a piece,
that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of magic bags.
So that's so if we break that down today, it would be roughly about 15 grand ish. So that's
money is so worthless now that compared to when I look at back. In the early 70s, 73 or something, if you wanted to buy a new Cadillac, it's $5,500.
Yeah. Today you're running like for Cadillac, you're running like 30 or 40. Like for the base model, you're looking at like 30 or 40,000. So yeah, it's
I
really
bought it
crazy.
in 1977. I bought a brand new Silverado dual wheel pickup truck. They didn't put diesel engines in them, and it was a gas job. But it
Hmm.
was a Silverado loaded with everything for $7,500.
And that's probably what you would pay today to buy that car. It's really weird. I could probably spend $7,500 and buy that exact car, and that just shows you that.
In the condition it's in today.
Well, if it's in good condition, yeah, it's like it's really weird. I know it's like really crazy.
Go
So
ahead, pick
once
out
again,
something. Pick out something.
once again, I am speaking with the amazing and wonderful Chris Christ. For people who are tuning in, people are jumping in and out.
When do I have to send you the check for saying
You can send it yeah, whenever you want.
that? Okay,
I
I figured out you Monday.
I trust you.
Well, that's your first.
uh,
That's your first mistake.
I did the question mark at the end of it. Hot Tub, like he said, he had giant wings. Actually has the world's largest married couple. Now, which largest married couple? Because there have been a couple. Dun
And,
dun.
and, and some and some were and some weren't.
Yeah,
You
because
know.
like one of the Shields brothers way back
Now
in the day.
The Fishers were years ago with the Ringling show. The Fishers were a legitimate married
Yeah, I know.
couple.
One of the Shields brothers back in like the Barnum days, also married a giantess, and they were married too as the world's largest couple for a while
You
too.
know,
Uh,
I never had both. I've had like a fat man and a dwarf girl, uh, pound of mama, ton of papa.
so he says he doesn't say. That's really weird. It should say, but that's still really. I mean, don't get me wrong. Giants rings are amazing. I think it's a really, as far as when it comes to the merchandise and merch from Sideshow, giant rings are one of the more interesting.
Yeah,
And one of the, my personal opinion is they're one of the cooler merchandise you can get from Sideshow outside of pitch cards, which are also really nice too.
yeah.
The giant rings are a lot more unique, so I really like them.
You know what's funny? That you mentioned something, a funny story that you get a kick out of this. Years
Okay.
ago, years ago, at, after a big day, we'd have to go around with a broom and sweep all that stuff up. The people just throw them on the ground.
Oh wow, really? Oh
Oh
wow.
yeah, yeah. You know, they'll throw away stuff.
Well, I mean that's fair. Like a lot of the giant rings. I mean, like the one, like even the Jack Roll one which I had, which is, I mean, they're all made of like at best pewter, so or plastic, or even so you were talking about the invisible stuff too. So it's one of those interesting. That go, it's not really terribly surprising, but both
Well, not the
unfortunate and
rings,
fortunate.
not the rings so much, but the photos.
Oh, the
The,
pitch card stuff.
yeah, the pitch cards or the magic slum bag.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, it's
And
because
then
it,
the help got instructed to if they weren't all crumbed up and stuff, save them because we
well,
resell them.
well, yeah. No, I guess that makes a level of sense because you get handed like for these sort of show stuff, you get handed so much paper during the shows that it's hard to say what's like a weird flyer versus whatnot. All right, cool. We just got a from Free Collector 57. Uh, just ask a question. Goes, did Chris ever pitch lookbacks? And if so, does he remember the pitch?
Yes, I did. And off the top of my head, no, I can't give you the pitch exactly.
That's fair. Yeah, I remember Free Collector from the last show. Thank you for coming and tuning in again, Free Collector. I appreciate it. Let's see. Anything like chat? Yeah. Hot Todd just sent me the picture of the literally as the ring says the world's tallest married couple on earth. It doesn't say the names. That's still a really cool ring. It's amazing.
Could be the Fishers off the Ringling Show because they legitimately were married and did have a ring like that.
It probably could have been. It's one of those. It looks like
And
it's made of the same.
it could have been a put together deal, you know.
Yeah, well, it looks like the same pewter like that I got the Jack Earl ring from. So
Well, that
it
era,
looks like it's of that time.
coming from that era and the Fishers era and the Jack Earl era,
Yeah,
they would have all been pewter back then.
yeah. It looks like a pewter ring. So
Yeah, they would have. I mean, that was what what they had it made out of.
no, it looks an amazing ring. And like
That's
oh
what,
yes, Sarah. So yeah,
when Johann first started, he had the pewter ones. Then he got these translucent ones made out of plexiglass, and on the front, facing maybe 3/4 of an inch high by 2 inches wide or something, there was a flat space because they were probably injected molded.
Yeah.
And they just put a sticker on there with his name and picture on.
Yeah. Okay. So Free Collector basically says the Fishers. There are two versions. It's fine. I'm gonna do something on the fly. So forgive me. We can still chat about stuff. If you guys have any questions, please make sure to put it in the chat. I am going to put the picture on our screen so we can get confirmation because for Free Collector, which drop me a line later because it sounds like you're a guy I want to talk with about stuff. Maybe bring you on the show sometime to talk about sideshow stuff. I've had Josh Bladzik, who's an old sideshow guy too, and like now he does stuff out of for his own thing, so it's pretty cool. Let me beep photos. But please, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, please join so like that.
I don't know. I'm not getting very many questions. I'm mostly not excited anybody said.
No, I think people are just it doesn't necessarily. Sometimes it takes a minute for people to tune in when I go, "Hey, ask a question." Like Hot Todd to Lincoln also said, "Thank you so much. I love to know history of the ring," which is like where I'm like, no, actually, I personally find the history of Giants very very fascinating, and for the other show I do, which is the Devil's Hour, which I do every Wednesdays here in Cabin Fever, I talk about sideshow history a lot, and Texas has a fuck ton of like giants, and so I like talking about the Texas Giants, and whether it's like Jack Earl or the Shields brothers and whatnot. So it's one of those. I'm happy to like to get the information about this sort of stuff because I personally find it fascinating. So at the time when you because weirdly enough is for back to you, Chris. So basically, like in today's age, people are like literally like people in today's age, like when they see giants, they're just thinking basketball stars. Back when you were like the young kid and stuff like that, what was really the reaction people had with giants?
Well, there was a regular routine you went through, building into the ring pitch. You know, how much material it takes to make a shirt. His foot is as long as my arm from my elbow to my fingertip. Look at his hand compared to mine. There's his hand, here's mine. You know, we had a regular routine, and then we had, you put a silver dollar through the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that was the main thing. And you would leave them sitting until the end, make the pitch, and then stand up. And when they stood up, they would throw their arms up this way, which made them look that much taller.
Mm-hmm. No, it's no. I once again find it fascinating. So I spent like 16 years living in Houston, and like Yao Ming, which was basketball star, also massive. So they always had things about Yao Ming there. So it's really interesting seeing like what the reaction to for Giants for the time, and like when people saw the giant, were they more kind of freaked out or more just
No,
amused?
no, no. They were kind of like the midget giants, fat people were kind of the family type stuff. And I always had in the show, if I had an oddity, if they didn't do anything when they got to me, I would figure out an act for them to do. Because
Okay.
I didn't like to have, some guys like, God bless them, Walter Wallace, Dick Best, they had what I call here I come, there I go guys. It's
Hmm.
like, my name is Joe Blow. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to a perfectly normal mother and father. If you want to buy a picture, 10 cents, thank you. There was no
Okay.
entertainment value there.
Hmm.
I had a quarter man, and he came and he was sent to me by Sam Alexander. He had worked for him the year before. So the first night I said, so what do you want me to do? I said, well, do what you did for Sam last year and we'll go from there. So he sat there, mumbled in the microphone, played the harmonica badly. And I said, oh, I got to do something with him. But he was a real cooperative guy. And all those
Hmm.
people that are, like quarter people, they can all do handstands and their balance and the strength in their arms. So I got him a trunk. We made a fancy cover, and I made a set of parallel bars, and he did all these flips and stuff.
That's very
Because I
cool.
like, I think the people liked it better when they were entertained by these people, not just here I come, there I go.
That's a very fair statement. If they, well, that if they can't talk, that doesn't help either. As far as be a talker, not can't talk, but can't tell a good story. So in the chat, this is a kind of slightly off topic, but still viable from Sarah Minch the Winch. Because I've heard of small salamanders being sold as sideshow merch. Did your crew sell those? And if so, what act was the big one that sold that? Like a snake act or what?
Uh, the only time I was ever exposed to that was in 1967 when I threw knives in the garden in the basement. There was a guy named Sam the Bug Man, and he had these little, what did you call them? Salamanders. And
Yes.
they
So
had a little string on them, and they would have them pinned on the board, and then they pin them on you. And he had the deal with the Ringling Show to be, he had all the bugs.
yes.
And also, when they gave you the bug, they give you a little printed sheet that said, how to care for the bug and so on. Plus,
Okay.
plus an address that because they give you a little food with it, this food won't last long. So here's our address, and we'll send you the specially formulated food. So
Yeah.
they would also, if the thing lived long enough, they also sold food. Or when you bought it, they would try to upsell you to a little bit of food.
No, I understand.
But
Um,
that's the only time I was ever exposed to that.
No, that's fair. Just so you're aware that Kali von Wunderkammer of the Southern Sunshine Hootenanny, she's also in the chat, and she loves hearing you talk. And we're hoping that I've already talked to her on the off thing about trying to make sure we bring you out to the Hootenanny whenever we can do that again. Uh,
Yeah,
she, because she
I
just
would
wants to
love
make
to.
sure
I would love to come. Whenever.
that whenever,
I
yeah,
do.
hopefully wear your mask, wash your hands. That's what I'm saying. So that way, like March, we can do this again because I want to hang out with all these cool people. So, so basically, she's like trying to think of a new question, but she also want to make sure you don't repeat anything. You know what? Kali, I'm just going to let you know right now that even if he repeats a story, I'm going to love it personally. And there's a lot of people in the chat who may not have heard it today. So even if he repeats a story that he may have told last time, there are people who are watching today that didn't watch last time. So it's fine.
Sure.
Sarah Mitch goes, "Oh, that is amazing. Thanks. Frank the Bugman is a great name. That actually is a great name.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to talk. I'll talk to Scabs the Clown. He's
I
really big
forget
into
his
bugs
name
about
was
that.
Goldsmith or Goldberg or something.
Yeah. Scabs the Clown is huge into bugs too. So I'm gonna have to talk to him about bug stuff. So we got about a few minutes left in for the show today because we're gonna do like a hard stuff like that. Now we will probably be talking a little bit after the show. If Chris is amenable, I can put the link in the chat, and you guys can join us after the show to chat for a little bit. I know it's late where he's at, so I don't want to keep him too long. But I'm happy to chat with everybody about all this stuff because it's such a great time. But if you have any other questions, please drop in the line for the stuff like that. Don't forget, Chris and I will be talking probably late November, early December for a great and wonderful holiday show.
I got some great Christmas stories, so we'll do Christmas thing.
Oh, that's going to be an amazing time. I'm going to make sure I have to do my stuff up right to look the part here. I work in a costume shop, so I should be able to make it work.
You work in a magic shop or?
I work in a so I live here in Austin, Texas, and there's a costume shop here called Lucy in Disguise with Diamonds. They've been open for over 36 years, and it's a lot of fun. It's like literally, I got off work to come and do this.
Is it a combo magic shop?
They don't have a lot of magic stuff, surprisingly enough. I'm working on it. I'm still learning. I'm more on the costume side, but I keep talking to them about like weird magic and sideshow stuff. It's the first job I've worked at where I can really kind of go, hey, I do this other stuff too, and they're down for it. So I've been liking it. So if you're in Austin, Lucy in Disguise with Diamonds. Otherwise, if you guys have any other questions, drop in the line, the thing. I'm going to do my quick spiel as far as what else is going on so I can get my plugs out of the way.
Yep.
Monday, myself and Scabs the Clown are going to be doing another episode called Gaffing the Truth, which is a paranormal, like basically it's like we're talking about weird conspiracies and paranormal stuff and like that. We kind of talk about this stuff. We're going to be talking about ghost stories this coming Monday. If you have a ghost story that you want to share, drop me a line. You can either do at Geoff with the G or devilsexhibit@gmail.com. On Wednesday, I've got the Devil's Hour, which is my weekly variety show where I showcase like sideshow acts, drag, not much burlesque because burlesque is not frowned upon on Twitch. Music, all sorts of weird, fun stuff like that. Pickles LeVay calls me the weirdo curator, so I find stuff like that. And then every Saturday here on Cabin Fever live stream, we always showcase stuff with sideshow things and everything like that. I've Scabs Clowns on before me. We have Boobzilla popping on to do stuff as well. We always do great stuff. I know the month of October we're going to be changing stuff up, but still tune in every week. Fun stuff. And if you know somebody, join in. Drop me a line.
Excuse me. What?
Yes, sir.
What about getting Tommy on there?
I would love to have
because Tommy is a great interview, and he's got a younger person's perspective.
I would love to talk to Tommy. Let's help me make sure I can get Tommy on here because I would love to talk to Tommy.
Well, why don't you just send a little note to Luella?
It's true. I could just send a note to Luella. That's true. That's also very, very true.
I mean, they don't live too far apart.
That's very true. That is my understanding. To keep the kayfabe up.
They because of the pig and not knowing what was going on, they've got their RV parked right behind my house.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yes. So thank you so much, Chris, once again for tuning in with us. We're just about out of time. I literally would talk to you every day about everything and absorb all that knowledge you have to give.
Well, someday we'll get a chance to spend a whole day together.
Well, that's my plan. Is because like we need to get stuff ready to get. We need to get stuff right again, so we can actually everybody can hang out. So instead of wash your hands, do that. Wash your hands, wear a mask, keep distance. We need to beat this shit because I want. If only because I'm selfish. I want to hang out with Chris here, like live and in person versus over the internet. So please be sure to do that sort of thing. One second. Ba, ba, ba. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw into the chat. I'm gonna throw into the chat the Zoom thing that we're talking with right now. So if anybody wants to join us afterwards, because we're about to leave and talk so much other dumb stuff. So you got to go with the circuses there. January 9th? Oh, that might be an idea. It's fair. I have family that lives out in Florida, so it gives me the excuse to hang out with them for a bit. Although they're in they're in the Panhandle, but
As
cool.
of now, the first weekend of January, we're still going to have the circus.
Then yeah, I'm gonna work my way around. Well, like Florida just opened up supposedly, so that's gonna be weird.
Yeah, we got a governor who's drank too much Kool-Aid. He makes decisions that are. We have to open this thing back up, but he just gets too radical. It's my opinion.
No, it's that whole I go. We'll see how it goes. I mean, if it goes well, great.
Are we still on the air?
We're about to get off right now. I'm finishing one more thing. Thank you so much once again, Chris, for tuning in. Everybody, thank you for coming back.